Back in February of this year, General Motors promised to deliver 400,000 electric cars by the end of next year. So let's see how they're going with that. Hello my friends, welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking, and I'm the guy that likes to hold General Motors to account for what they claim they say they'll do. And let's see how they're actually meeting up to those claims. Well, first of all, GM said that they will sell 400,000 EVs, or deliver 400,000 EVs, more importantly, by the end of 2023. Now that's what they told investors. Well, before we actually look at the numbers to see if GM has any chance in hell, any chance in remote chance to actually meet that number, there's some news today saying that there's more bad news for the Chevy Bolt once again. GM has delayed the 2023 Chevy Bolt production start date for, I think, the second or third time in a row now. Hindered by the worldwide battery recall for the Bolt EV and the Bolt EUV, both of those vehicles were actually scheduled to enter production, right, by the 9th of May. GM pushed back the start of production to July the 21st. Now they've delayed it to July the 26th, and yeah, we'll see if that happens. Now, this information comes from General Motors Authority. They're basically like a General Motors fan site who currently note that both electric vehicles are produced in Michigan at Lake Orion. Following a $4 billion investment, Lake Orion will be repurposed for all-electric pickup truck production, as in the Silverado EV and the Sierra EV. Last month, GM published the order guide for the Bolt EV, which confirms an illuminated charge port under option code 62G for both trim levels. Once hailed by the biggest of the big three in Detroit as the Model 3's worst nightmare, the media said it was a Tesla Model 3 killer. This vehicle currently retails from $31,500 before the $1,000 destination freight charge. However, there is a $6,000 purchase cash allowance that makes the Bolt EV a very tempting proposition. In fact, depending on which state you're in America, you can get the Bolt EV for around about $21,000. I mean, between $21,000 and $27,000, depending on what state you're in. Seems like a bargain, doesn't it? Problem is availability, and frankly, actually demand is not that high. That said, I recommend it. I highly recommend the Bolt EV and the Bolt EUV if you can get your hands on one for the discounted prices that GM is advertising. Obviously, your dealer may or may not come to the party when it comes to giving you those prices. So let's get back to General Motors and Mary Barra and her statements about what GM will do this year and next year, right? Which is produce 400,000 electric cars. How many electric cars have they produced for the first half of this year? Well, the first quarter of 2022 was a very, very challenging quarter for General Motors. Now, I should point out, General Motors delivered only 26 electric cars in the fourth quarter of 2021. So that was even worse. However, total vehicle sales for GM decreased by 20% in the first quarter of this year to 512,000. They only sold 457 plug-in electric vehicles in the US. That's a very disappointing 95% decrease year over year and 0.1% of GM's total volume. So in the first quarter of this year, only 0.1% of GM's vehicles, period, were fully electric. 0.1. And that meant for that trailing 6 months, GM only delivered 483 electric cars in the 6-month period. Well, what about the second quarter of this year, right? You would think that GM would have to have a big rebound considering what's going on with their massive investments into electric car production. Well, during the second quarter of this year, General Motors delivered 582,000 vehicles in the United States. That's 15.4% less than 1 year ago. On the positive side, the volume and market share of GM increased sequentially for the third consecutive quarter. Now that number included 387 Chevrolet vehicles, down 10.5%, and 132 GMC vehicles, down 13.7%. The two brands sold in the US a total of 7,217 electric vehicles. That's 7,300 if you include the Bright Drop Zevo van, which is 36% less than a year ago and represents about 1.2% of total GM volume. So GM rebounded, right? From the first quarter of this year to the second quarter, 1.2% of all cars were electric. So what do we got the number in total, right? We're looking at a number in total of 7,000, just under 7,900 electric cars produced by General Motors over the past 9 months. That means over the past 9 months, General Motors has produced 200 electric cars per week. Now, they promised they would deliver 400,000 electric cars from the start of 2022 to the end of 2023. So far, they've delivered 7,800. What does that mean? That means over the next 18 months, to hit the target that they promised investors, they promised the media, they promised the public, they need to deliver 392,200 electric cars. Considering they've only delivered 7,800 for the first half of this year, that seems like, well, you tell me what that seems like. From where I'm looking, that seems mathematically impossible. Personally, I think General Motors should probably update their shareholders to tell them what's really going on at General Motors, what their real forecasts are, what the real likelihood of them delivering 400,000 EVs over the next 18 months is. Is that really going to happen? Clearly, it's not. Now, the thing is, of these 7,800 or less, just less than that, electric cars that GM delivered in the first 6 months of this year, 7,000 of those were the Bolt and the Bolt EUV. So 90% of them were the Bolt. And production still hasn't started for the 2023 model. So more than likely, GM's electric vehicle deliveries in the third quarter of this year will be probably less than what they were in the second quarter of this year. What does that mean? That means GM will still probably have to build around 385,000 electric cars over the next 5 quarters to hit their claimed target that they said they're going to hit. Really? Are you still believing what the media is telling you, what Mary Barra is telling you about General Motors? Frankly, I think this is fraud. Really, we all said, right, when Nikola was making these kinds of crazy promises, that it was fraud. And they were convicted for fraud, for lying about what they were going to do. I really think Mary Barra knows full well, that General Motors has no chance of coming anywhere near remotely close to delivering this number of electric cars over the next 18 months. She knows it. And she's keeping her mouth shut. Is this fair to investors? Is this fair to people who believe her at her word? Is this fair to President Joe Biden, who said that the General Motors is the greatest electric car company on the face of the earth? That they ushered in the electric revolution. Is that fair? Now, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe General Motors will turn things around and pull a Houdini, pull a magic trick out of a hat. You never know. I mean, they do have a pretty big electric car portfolio. They've got the GMC Hummer, the EV pickup, which is monstrously massive and monstrously amazing and awesome. It has the biggest battery pack of any consumer vehicle in the world, right? The Cadillac Lyriq crossover, the Bright Drop EV600 utility van, the Chevy Bolt EV, and the Bolt EUV. I mean, if they can actually just start making some of these cars, I'm sure they'll find plenty of customers. The key here is making them. Now, if we add to that their future EV vehicles that are meant to be coming out, right? Meant to be hitting the market by the end of 2023. We've got the GMC Hummer EV SUV, the Chevy Silverado EV, the Chevy Equinox EV, the Chevy Blazer EV, the GMC Sierra EV, and the Bright Drop EV410. So they're going to deliver apparently about 8 new models within the next 18 months. Personally, I honestly think Tesla's strategy is a lot smarter. Make 2 vehicles. Make them simple. Make them similar to each other. Make them use 80% of each other's parts. Make a lot of them. That is what I think General Motors should be focusing on doing. Simplify the product portfolio. Make as many EVs as they can. Start to actually meet the actual real, start to try to meet expectations that they're setting. Meet the goals they're giving people. They're telling people these outrageous goals. They're saying they're going to beat Tesla in 2025. And then they go and deliver, 7,800 EVs over the last 9 months. I mean, there's car companies all over the planet delivering more EVs than that in a single month that you've never heard of. Come on, General Motors. Get it together. You can do it. We expect big things from you because you promised us big things. That's what I want to see happen. Either that or Mary Barra comes clean. What do you think? Let me know. I mean, am I being too harsh on GM? Or am I being fair? Personally, I feel like I'm being fair, but maybe I'm being too harsh. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.